Mahatma Gandhi is a recognized figure, I think, in all the West. And something that's interesting is once they were talking to him about Christianity as he was on this quest of nonviolent, kind of a nonviolent revolution, you might almost say, there in India. And he talked about Christianity and he said that he felt like Christianity was like a rock in a stream, where if you break it open, the inside is dry. And what was he referring to? That so often, perhaps Christianity in itself is something very powerful, but that so many Christians don't live like that. And I think there's something very interesting in that reflection, and something that should, bring us to reflect about our own lives and to see if we're really living out Christianity the way that we're called to. Today's gospel to me seems fascinating. One of the great practices of the rabbis in the time of Jesus was to try to summarize the law. And so when this scribe comes to Jesus and asks him, what is the most important of the laws, it's not really out of place. It's kind of a test of this great rabbi, Jesus from Galilee. They want to know what he's thinking, how he's looking at his relation with the law. And Jesus summarizes the law in 2 commandments. And this must have seemed pretty powerful, pretty amazing. You shall love God above all else, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And so I think that this is something that's important, and at the same time, we have to avoid the risk just because of our culture and the way that our society so often looks at religion as simply a way of living a moral code. And we have to recognize that with Christianity, it's much more than a moral code. Christianity is about growing in relationship with Christ. And as Catholics, I think we have 3 very helpful ways to do precisely that. First, we have the sacraments. And the sacraments are really at the center of our entire Christian living. Every Sunday when we gather for the Eucharistic celebration, we're gathered around the sacrament of the Eucharist, the sacrament of penance, reconciliation, where we're able to, say to God through the ministry of a priest the things that we've done, that we regret, that are evil, and receive that absolution, receive again that communion with Him. And within all of the sacraments, we have really this aspect of growing in relationship with Christ. A second means that we have at our disposal is prayer. As Catholics, I think that we're called to pray in a very special way, and that it's something that should really touch our hearts and allow us to love God above all else. So how are we doing on our prayer? How are we really living out our prayer in our day-to-day life? Is it part of our daily schedule? And then the third way that I would suggest is service. We receive so much from God, and that's such a special grace and a special blessing. And we're also called to give to others, give of ourselves, give everything that we are through service, recognizing those perhaps who are less fortunate than we are and going out of our way in order to serve them, but also just in our day-to-day lives, the way we interact with others at school, at work, in our households, at home with our family, to really have a spirit of service. And then, I don't know how many of you have delved into the latest encyclical of Pope Francis that just came out a couple of weeks ago, but I have been fascinated by some of the numbers there. And number 8 particularly, I really recommend. I think it's a powerful number where he invites us to really look at our major life choices and make sure that we're living in a way that really leads us along that path to happiness, to holiness that God is calling us to. So I would recommend heartily to get into that encyclical, De Lexit Nos of Pope Francis, and to reflect, to use that to reflect on your own life. So today in this gospel that we see Jesus encountering this scribe and summarizing the law, we'll see how our Lord is inviting all of us to a personal relationship with Him. Have a great Sunday. God bless.